Hey guys, welcome back to Movie Idol. Okay, so before last Sunday's episode, we knew that Bran could work into animals and humans and control their actions. We also knew that he could go back into time using his Green Seer skills to observe past events. We noticed that with the Tower of Joy scene where a young Ned Stark seemed to hear Bran call out to him. The Three-Eyed Raven dismisses the idea of Bran being able to do so, but then think about what happened last Sunday. He was able to use both skills of warging and going back in time. While the Cave of the Three-Eyed Raven was being attacked by White Walkers, Bran was green-seeing in Winterfell years ago, observing a young Hodor and a young Ned Stark. That's when he heard Mira's voice. If you guys didn't know who Mira is, this is the daughter of Howland Reed, a huge character in the books. And the only thing that we've really seen of him in the show was when he backstabbed Arthur Dayne, saving Ned in the Tower of Joy flashback scene. After hearing Mira call to him from the cave, begging him to warg into Hodor, Bran was able to do that without even leaving the Vision or Winterfell, which is absolutely insane. But he also warged into a young Hodor as well at the same time. And that changed the poor kid from being a normal boy named Willis into a simpleton who could only repeat the shortened version of the phrase, "hold the door." Which is, so sad, so sad. He literally kept repeating the last moments of his life, all his life. Tragic. Since it seems like Bran indeed has the power to combine warging and green sight in order to change the past or future of time if anything, Bran has just become the most important character in this story. Everything we've seen to this point can be called into question, like Bran's potential influence on all events in this world is limitless. Bran the Builder, anyone? Here are some events that I'm going to explain to you and the possibility of Bran's influence really on all of Game of Thrones history. First off, the voices in the Mad King's head belonged to Bran. Well, obviously we know that Bran can time travel, so it isn't too far out of the realm of possibility that Bran had to go back to the era of the Mad King for some unfinished business, or even just come across some scene in his visions somehow. But we've seen Bran create a link between the past and present, which eventually broke Hodor's mind, turning him into a simpleton. Just wait, it gets good. If you remember Jaime's testimony, the Mad King just kept repeating, "Burn them all, burn them all." And if you remember what happened to Hodor, he kept saying, "Hold the door, hold the door." So, what if he didn't mean King's Landing and the rebels? What if Bran somehow, either accidentally or purposefully, let him see the army of the dead? Someone could be yelling something akin to like, "Burn them all," just like Hodor's "Hold the door." It would be the most tragic thing to happen to the show, in my opinion. I mean, I love Hodor and everything, but the Mad King wasn't really mad after all, like everybody knows him to be, but instead suffering because no one knew what he meant, and he died for it, and cost his family the throne. Bran the Builder. This has been such a big theory going around for many years, and it has to be true, and you'll see why in the next minute or two. Bran will go back in time to build the wall. And when people ask what the guy's name was who built the wall, he just says Bran. Thus, there you go, Bran the Builder, who will be the inspiration for Bran's name, like Bran Stark's name, when he's born in the present time. He'll be the one who will establish in the past that there must always be Starks in Winterfell, because he must ensure that he comes into existence in the present. For those who don't know, Bran the Builder lived about 8,000 years before the present moment. In the books, it's 8,000 years. In this show, I think it's only about 1,000 years. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he did live around the time of when the first men invaded, and basically he is the founder of House Stark. He built Winterfell and the Wall, establishing that there must always be a Stark in Winterfell. Considering that he created the Wall in Winterfell, if Bran did go back in time, it isn't too far out of the realm of possibility that he did make sure there always had to have been a Stark in Winterfell. There is proof of this in the books when Old Nan is telling the story of Bran the Builder to Bran because it's his favorite story. Bran denies it was his favorite story anyways, but he does remember that his mother Catelyn said that the Old Nan has lived so long that all the Brandon Starks in history had become one person in her head. Is that a little hint, Mr. Martin? And what about this conversation between Ned and Arya in King's Landing? Arya says he wants to be a knight of the Kingsguard. He can't be one now, can he? You know, after Bran fell and became paralyzed from the waist down. Ned then says no, but someday he could be the Lord of Holdfast or sit on the King's Council. He may even raise castles like Bran the Builder. This same quote also appeared in the show. This shows some evidence that this quote has some sort of importance because Benioff and Weiss kept that line in the show for maybe a possible future reveal. There is also the thing about the last hero. Bran may actually warg into the last hero and use him to beat the others the first time around and make peace with the children of the forest, because he will know that he needs the religion of the old gods to be maintained in the north so that the men can learn to warg. Otherwise, he can't, in the future, go back to the past and set things in motion. The Bloodraven tells him that he has to become him, because the Bloodraven knows that in his earlier days, the future Bran is the one who controlled the Bloodraven and taught him the ways and sent him to the children of the forest to hold the place until he, Bran, could come to him and learn it. It's very confusing. But the last hero is an unknown man who sought out the children of the forest, needing their help to defeat the whites because they have invaded there for the first time. The first men eventually won for the battle for the Dawn, defeating the whites and sending them far into exile. And if you remember, this is when the Night's Watch first formed, as told by Old Nan. This is what she says, quote, "Now these were the days before the Andals came, and long before the women fled across the narrow sea from the cities of Roin, and the 100 kingdoms of those times were the kingdoms of the first men, who had taken those lands from the children of the forest. Yet here and there is the fastness of the woods. The children still lived in their wooden cities and hollow hills, and the faces in the trees kept watch, so as cold and death filled the earth. The last hero determined to seek out the children in the hopes that their ancient magics could win back what the armies of the men had lost. He set out onto the Deadlands with a sword, a horse, a dog, and a dozen companions. For years he searched until he despaired of ever finding the children of the forest in their secret cities. One by one his friends died, and his horse, and eventually even his dog. And his sword froze so hard the blade snapped when he tried to use it, and the others smelt the hot blood in him, and came silent on his trail, stalking him with the packs of pale white spiders, big as hounds. And then she is interrupted before she can finish. And she actually never finishes to this point, of course. So hopefully we do find out more of that history from, or possibly even through Bran. Now, you know how the Red Priestesses believe either Daenerys or Jon is the prince that was promised? Even if you believe that Jon is, I did up until now, because of his resurrection, it would be pretty amazing to think that, no, Jon isn't the prince that was promised, neither is Dany. Bran may be Azor Ahai, the prince that was promised. This character, who goes by at least 5 different names, is the legendary hero promised by R'hllor and defeated some great darkness. Could that great darkness be the others like the last hero himself? The idea is that he will be reborn again as a champion after a long summer when a dark force descends on the world. This is where we are now in Game of Thrones. Westeros, for the first time in ages, is thrown into complete chaos. If Bran is not just capable of greensight and warging, but is actually a time traveler who was also Bran the Builder, the last hero, and Azor Ahai, the promised savior, what does this actually mean? I mean, on the surface, it gives him this massive influence over the entire world. Could the whole entire world of Game of Thrones be his creation, or at least somewhat? If Bran allowed the Night's King on accident to break the magic of the tree or cave, however you want to label it, could this foreshadow the destruction of the Wall by the Night King? The Wall has a magic to it, obviously put there by the one who created the Wall, Bran the Builder, right? And by coincidence, this Bran has magical powers. Could the Night King break down the Wall with the accidental help of Bran like he did in the cave? There has been some foreshadowing. When Jon told Dolorous Edd, "Don't tear it down," that may actually foreshadow the collapse of the Wall later this season, as a lot of fans would want to happen. If this theory is correct, Bran really is the most powerful being in the world, influencing many aspects of the Seven Kingdoms throughout history, even creating the idea of history in the world. Like, whoa, you don't want to go there. But what do you guys think of this theory? Could Bran be literally the one? If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And for more movie news and reviews, subscribe here at Movie Idol.